Well, hello, and thank you for joining us on Thought Leader Magazine. My name is Todd Smith. I'm the VP of Partner Growth here at MacGuyverTech, and we are super excited for today's show. I have Mac from MacGuyverTech. Mac, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is good. So thank you. Well, the one thing that I just want to tell our audience, you know this, but I say this every time. Thought Leader Magazine is the place where you can find and talk to some of the most innovative leaders, entrepreneurs, and change agents that are transforming their industries. So thank you for joining us. I just want to introduce Mac. So Mac is a nationally regarded cryptocurrency and blockchain speaker. He has a history of working with both private and government clients. He led and created the Magnet team, creating a software program that is used in numerous municipalities from Hawaii all the way to New Jersey. He has a separate blockchain company called BlockPanner, and basically they specialize in cryptocurrency development and management. So Mac, thank you so much for joining us. Just wanted to get into a little bit about you just before we get into some details about your company. So you're a Philly guy. That's awesome. You graduated from Rowan, correct?
Yeah, I did. Graduated from Rowan back in '98, many moons ago.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. We're kind of from the same moon. And then you were, was it computer science or engineering?
Yeah, computer science. That was correct. Okay. Initially, I was going for electrical engineering, and then I switched over to computer science, which honestly was a good decision.
Great decision.
So I'd never turn back. But I'm pretty handy with a soldering iron if I need to.
Now, do you remember your first email account?
Oh, geez, probably.
Mine was Hotmail.
Like Netscape territory.
Yeah, exactly.
AOL-ish.
Yeah.
You got an AOL email, maybe?
Exactly. Yeah, we are absolutely dating ourselves. Half of our audience is like, "What? Netscape? Hotmail? What's that?" What was your first job out of college?
Well, I actually had a job in college. I was waiting and doing whatever I can at Rowan University at some of the local restaurants. But once I got done, I actually went up and started working for some small boutique shops up there in the Boston area, doing some web development and websites at the time because it was pretty basic back then.
Yeah.
The first place was Cosmic Egg Studios. And I worked for them on and off for a few years. And then eventually that company got absorbed by a company called Zephyr Corporation. And I got to work in the Back Bay office, or Back Bay area of Boston area for about 4 to 5 years, which is really awesome, actually. Boston's a fantastic city.
Great city, yep.
Yeah, so and then, really like that.
When did you become CEO of MacGuyverTech?
Sure. So after I was in the Boston area, I came back down to the Philly area, and after a few years, I started working for a company called CSI, Computer Software Incorporated. It's actually where that Magnet project was. I was the first person that built the team and everything about it. It was a great learning experience to build my own company. So then after that project, I wound up starting MacGyver Media about 10 years ago. And I had the intentions of just helping companies creating custom software and doing a little different than a canned solution, which I saw so many times throughout my years is not really a good solution. Most companies want to operate in their own way. Even if you have the same company, same industry, same size, they're going to operate completely different. And they usually want to have that subtle difference, and that's what makes them them. Where if you're using a canned solution of software, you're forcing everybody to work the same way. So we make tailored glove fit solutions for our customers. And it's usually a long-term commitment, and we really enjoy the relationship aspect of that.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. Before we get into the business, I just want to talk a little bit more about you. You said you grew up in South Jersey, right?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And then you married, kids?
Yes, I've been married happily for about 7 years now.
Okay.
I have a 6-year-old kid who's just now in kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's a fun time for sure.
Yeah, that's exciting. Any hobbies, or is it just basically following your wife's orders?
Well, that is the honey-do list can get quite lengthy. But I am a real nerd. So the things I like to study I don't really watch too much TV. If I do watch TV, it's educational. But I like scientific things, mathematical things. I like study like quantum mechanics and physics for hobbies and weird stuff like that. Yeah. I'll try to maybe take some hackers down that try to come against my firewall that I watch. I am an ethical hacker, so I tend to kind of I don't know. I do certain things that are a little bit different. I tend to kind of I'll find a project that's kind of new in the blockchain space and I'll tinker around with it. I'm a natural tinkerer. I like to kind of play around with things.
Yeah, that's the engineer in you.
Yeah. I don't know. I like to build things. I'm a builder.
That's
Really
awesome.
kind of
Yeah.
break it down. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter if I'm doing it for work or fun. I
Yeah.
like to build things.
Now, with your 6-year-old son, have you gotten into Legos yet?
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's
Yeah.
millions of Legos in
Isn't
that
it
room
great?
already. I think we have buckets of them
That's
already.
great. I know. I still like my boys are about 10 years older than your son, and like that little 6 to 10 year old span, like oh man, it was just nothing but Lego. And I'm a big Star Wars geek, so like we were big into
yeah,
the,
me
oh my
too.
god, we still have buckets of like figures. I could probably, yeah,
Wow.
I could probably build the Death Star at this point.
Wow, wow. We're actually at the point where we have to start using super glue for some of
Yes.
the ones that are over 1,000 pieces.
Yes, yeah, I know. As you should, because from my experience, they basically get broken the next day. So
Oh, they break really easy.
yeah, they
And
break
the last
easily.
thing you want to do is have a heartbroken kid after you spent a whole weekend putting this thing together.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So let's talk about you professionally. What are some of your habits? You know, like running a company as a CEO is like it's not an easy job. So like, what are some habits
man.
that you have to basically keep yourself focused? Keep your priorities focused, that type of stuff.
Wow. No one told me how hard being a CEO would be. I came from being a CTO role to a CEO, and boy, I've gotten really good at handling curveballs and being comfortable being uncomfortable. Basically having the kind of mindset where you're just like, okay, not sure what's going to come at me. Sometimes it could be good things, bad things, but there's always constant flux. I mean, to give you an example, like my daily checklists are usually a full entire page of this
fantastic.
things that got to get done.
Yeah.
So my biggest problem is time.
Time.
So time management is something I've been working religiously on, and I fight over a few minutes here and there, and I squeeze in little bits of my life in between meetings.
Yep.
That's basically what it comes down to is I'm trying to be as efficient as I can possibly because I am pushing the limits of what I think a human being could probably do.
Yeah.
And just, I'm running full tilt from morning to night.
Yep,
And then it's
definitely.
7 days a week sometimes for months on end.
Yep, I agree, and I think I see that with our CEO that like his time is just like everybody wants it, So like you're probably in the same situation where like you've started the company, you have all the answers or at least most of the answers, and you're the go-to guy. So you're constantly getting hit up internally, externally from hey Steve, hey, can you help me with this? Help me with this, So like what are some of the like strategies you have to sort of protect your time?
Hiring people smarter than me.
Yes, I love it.
I no longer want to be the smartest person in
Yeah.
the room by far. I don't
Fantastic.
care if I'm the dumbest person in the room. I
Yeah.
think that'd be a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's been a paradigm shift as somebody who, for majority of my career, had all the answers, and usually everybody comes to me. Having that, relinquishing that a little bit and not having to worry about providing the answers, and your team can do that is one, unbelievably refreshing.
Yep.
Two, it takes a little burden off me because I'm only a human being, and there's only so much a human can do. I mean, the best way to put it is one of my mentors back when I was learning, they said there's only so many hours you can do rock star development or being really at the top of your game for your thought process. So you want to maximize that and make sure you play to your strengths. So that's kind of how I look at it. There's certain ways I have my days scheduled. In the morning, I tend to be a little bit more sharper now than I do towards the end of the day. So things like anything that's more important is usually earlier in the day.
Yep.
So those little subtle things of kind of tweaking your schedule to match what best fits you is a really big game changer because you quickly find out as being a CEO that you really have a lot of things coming at you, and if you don't find a way to manage that effectively, you're going to get overwhelmed in a heartbeat.
Yeah, most certainly. Well, I think the one thing
know,
the one thing you said is really impressive, and I think it takes a degree of humility. Is like, understanding that like you don't have to be the smartest person in your company. That takes a lot of humility to basically accept that and then relinquish that, like as you said. So kudos to you for that, because when you are that person that wants to hold the answers, you can't really grow. Like so growth for yourself is basically being able to open yourself and then figuring out what you do best and then fitting yourself into that space and allowing other people and empowering other people to do the job that you feel like you can do.
100%, and it's all about a team mentality. So another adage I guess you can put out there that has been taught to me that kind of sticks with me is I've been told is if you want to go fast you go by yourself, but if you want to go far you need a team.
Yeah, good stuff.
So you got to have that team, you got to have that trust, and to me it's almost like pretty cool of putting together a team from a company. It almost reminds me of putting a team together in sports.
Yeah.
You know, you have your quarterback, you have your
Yep.
receiver, you have all the linemen. You need all these, and they all have special skill sets.
Yep.
And you have to have the right people in the right seats. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective. So that's been a game changer to try to identify these types of things. And by no means, I'm not the best person in this area. I have
Yeah.
people that are smarter than me in this
Right.
area that do a great job of bringing great talent to our company. And I'm really excited to be leading them. Honestly,
Yeah.
I like teaching people. I'm not driven by ego or profit. I've almost died about 4 times. So I'm really driven by trying to be the best version of myself. And maybe I'll have a large fee roll for people that have inspired or helped in my lifetime. Is
Yeah, that's
what I'm
fantastic.
shooting for.
Yeah. So basically, you're CEO and general manager at the same time. I love it.
Well, no, I have a COO.
Oh, do you? Good. Oh,
I do. So trust me, I'm more of your ideas guy, not your process
love
guy.
it. Yep.
Even though I can get it done, I'll
Yep.
drag my feet. It's not
Yeah.
something I really care to do, but I am
Yeah.
very detail oriented.
Yeah.
So it does help, but I don't want to do it all the time because it does wear on me.
It's a grind to go that direction. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some books. Because obviously,
Sure,
in
yeah.
your industry, and really just in your position, man, you gotta read because there's so much insight that you can gain. Any books you want to recommend to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I won't get into any of my nerdy net math books because I don't think
Yeah.
anybody cares.
Don't
about
please.
those.
Yeah.
But,
Nobody
from a
cares.
business standpoint- from a business standpoint, I'd recommend. Here's a couple that's sitting on my desk right here.
Let's check it out.
We're actively growing my company, and I would highly recommend something like Traction. Traction is a well-known operating system. Actually, it's called EOS, or Entrepreneurship Operating System, and this basically is a framework to let your company scale and grow at much larger scales than you probably ever could imagine. Because it's really easy to get to where I'm at, about 20 employees or so. But then getting past that, it's really hard because you got different pieces of the company moving at different paces. This kind of makes everything work as an operating system in one unit. And it's been really great. We're just implementing it now. We're still in the beginning phases. But another book I'll recommend reading is How to Be a Great Boss, also by the same author, Geo Wickman, the well-known publisher and entrepreneur. He's actually created DuckDuckGo. If you haven't heard of it, it's a well-known search engine that's out there. And the last one is also by the same guy. It's called Rocket Fuel. So these, from a business owner, this is gold. If you can implement these into your organization, you will be more successful beyond your imagination.
Fantastic. All right. That's
But
a
it
good
does
plug.
take some discipline,
Yeah.
and you have to change things in a certain way and define what you really want and narrow your scope. But this is a tested and tried, and this is used by thousands and thousands of companies, and it's a success story after success story.
All right,
So
that's-
highly
thank you
recommend.
All right, thank you for sharing that. We'll hopefully our audience will take up some of those books. I'm definitely interested in that Traction book, so thank you. So
Absolutely.
let's transition to. I know you kind of touched on it, but just kind of tell us in your own words what MacGyverTech is.
Sure. So MacGyverTech has a unique kind of business model. We're not trying to be like other software vendors that are my competitors. A lot of them create software and they'll create for the idea and they'll turn and burn. My business model is not like that. I'm very relationship driven, first of all. 99% of my business comes from referrals and has come to me from my network. And I enjoy building and solving problems for companies. So we're very basically, problem solving kind of oriented. We love great user experience or UX. Basically, it's got to look really good. And it's also, from my background, it's got to be ultra secure. So we care about the security of the application, of everything we build, and anything we take a look at too. Because sometimes we do things like security penetration testing and stuff like that to see how resilient you are against the hackers or not. So they're the kind of pillars that we care about. So it's got to be a really good looking application that's ultra secure and easy to use. So
Fantastic.
we make it custom. We make it exactly for that company, as opposed to something that's out of box like SAP or Oracle, which are somewhat of my competitors. But they're millions of dollars. We're much lower than that, and we build them what they want. And they usually are really happy about that because they get what they want exactly. Not like, hey, you have 50% of what you need or more or less. It's exactly what you need, and there's something to be said about that. So it's been really successful.
So that's going to parlay to my next question, and you kind of alluded to it. But so when you started, you said you started MacGyverTech 10 years ago. Is that right?
Well, yeah. So let me just back up a little bit because there's probably some confusion here. So MacGyver Media has started about 10 years ago, and that's still the same entity. MacGyverTech has been rebranded from MacGyver Media due to the fact a few years ago when I started getting business development people, they kind of started balking at the fact that we were a media company. I said, what kind of media do you do? I'm like, we don't do any media. We're a software development company. So we went through a whole branding journey for about 8 months to find out that we were a tech company.
Oh my gosh.
And the name MacGyver is something that's followed me my whole life, and I want to be a little geeky here.
Yeah, let's see it. Come on.
Here, and
Geek
I'll
out.
show you my DJ MacGyver poster of me DJing in Seoul, Korea. So the name MacGyver has followed me around my whole life. That's actually me DJing in Seoul, Korea. In 2004, I don't know what it says underneath the DJ MacGyver.
Yeah.
It's all in Korean. But probably stupid American DJ or something.
Probably,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I got to live this life as a semi-famous DJ, traveled the world. I even signed with labels like Sony Music. So you know, when I was young, I had that name MacGyver, and it just always followed me around. So it's just MacGyver and whatever, whatever we're ready. So we're MacGyverTech.
That's really cool, man.
Now you
So
know.
the challenge, like, so I'm trying to think about like how we can explain to the audience, like, so you kind of alluded to like the SAP and the Oracle. So basically, if you need like an enterprise solution, like those are the names you know. However, you're sort of confined to sort of whatever their platform is, right?
It is,
So the
yes,
challenge that MacGyverTech sort of brought was, you know, being able to, you know, not operate in such a platform, but create a custom experience with the functionality that you need for your business, you know, at a scale. Is that a fair statement?
Here, I mean, the best way to kind of explain it, the SAP and Oracles, they have no choice but to put everything into a box.
Yeah.
The problem is that box takes a while to make.
Yeah.
And you basically you want to repeat and rinse, and you have a lot of customers with that same box. That poses a lot of engineering challenges because you have to basically make everybody happy. The problem with that is you force yourself into being dated software right out of the box because you have no choice but to be working in a kind of you have an area of time that is needed for this to pivot in any direction. So that alone causes them to be, if not years behind, in what's available in the software world. The software world is so fast-paced moving, and what we stick to is fundamentals and new technology coming down the line, applying those fundamentals to it, not what framework or tool you have, because those can change. So it's a different type of arrangement. We build them something that's modern, that's right now today, and it can pivot. Where the competitors, they're 10 times the price, they put you in the box, they want to force your business to work in a certain way, and most companies that kind of implement that usually want to get rid of it within a year or two.
Yeah.
So millions of dollars are wasted,
Right.
usually.
Yep.
So we avoid all that, and we just build them what they want.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And then
So it's pretty cool.
that is pretty cool. And it's kind of like, I guess, you know, the analogy would be like, you know, kind of like moving like a big, you know, tanker, you know, in the ocean.
It is.
Like kind of lacking that mobility, you know, whereas, you know, you sort of operate something that's a little more nimble and flexible and, you know, dependent on the customer's individual needs.
Right, yeah, but we still service some fairly large customers. We deal with like our large Anheuser beer distributors in the southeast of the U.S. We deal with a large company there. We deal with manufacturers and distributors in the Midwest that deal with like Eaton products and Generac generators. Like usually we do well with companies that have lots of things, you know, a manufacturer, distribution company. We just tend to seem to find our way with those types of companies because what happens is they usually have old legacy systems that were maybe made by a custom person 10 or 20 years ago, but they don't know what to do with it. And we found our kind of gets a sweet spot for, you know, taking on these old legacy systems and converting them into more modern systems and all web-based. Like they can be on their phone and do stuff that there was like never even imagined before. Like you can consolidate inventory on your phone in front of the customer. That stuff was a pipe dream years ago. So that's like where it really solves a lot of logistical problems. And since COVID, you know, everything's more mobile and everybody's more remote. So this plays really into those types of situations where, you know, we can maximize.
That's fantastic. Cool. So let's talk about your role as CEO. Like, what are some of your key responsibilities? I know you mentioned you have a COO now, so you're kind of not necessarily on top of the operations, but where do you see yourself like filling the gap as the CEO?
Well, currently I don't have a CTO. So, you know, right now I'm looking for a CTO. So I occasionally have to act as a CTO. So you know, part of my day I would say is meeting with a lot of the team leads of giving them, making sure they're on point on some of the stuff that they're doing, how they're solving the problem. Because in the software world, there's about 1 million ways you can solve a problem, but probably only 2 or 3 good ones. So you really want to focus on the good ones, and it takes sometimes a couple eyeballs to find that out. And it's, I have 25 years experience doing this. Sometimes I can bring some extra, experience to the table that they might not see. So that's part of my day. And the other part of the day is building relationships and growing the business and strategy. So, we're also currently going through the separation now of MacGyver Media and MacGyverTech into two separate entities.
Okay.
Instead of this being a rebranding. The reason being is MacGyverTech is really healthy with the ERP and enterprise applications we do, but that's a completely different line of business than the blockchain projects like NFTs we're doing as well. So we're separating them. MacGyver Media will be the NFT and the cool, fun things, and MacGyverTech will be the more serious applications. The reason why I'm even kind of considering keeping that types of business, even though they're completely separate, is because within the next few years, those enterprise applications are going to want some blockchain ability and some kind of functionality, and I'll be right there with them already and help them educate and implement that. So, but it's just not the time for the messaging and the focus. So they might be separated to come back together again at some point. We'll see, but that's kind of like the thing right now, at least from the marketing side, we're going about.
That's really cool. You said a word that I'm going to need you to help our audience with.
Okay.
Everybody knows about Bitcoin. Like you literally, like if you don't know what Bitcoin is, I'm sorry. But and then it was funny. I was asking some people in the office. I'm like, you said the word blockchain, right? So everybody knows the word. Most people probably know it's associated to Bitcoin. But I asked a few people in the office yesterday. I said, how do you define blockchain? And it's just like everybody just kind of like scratched their head and they're just like, I think I know what it is. I think it's associated to Bitcoin. So we watched a YouTube video on it yesterday just because we didn't know what it was. So I had, it's actually a very good video. But the video talked about like how a blockchain is basically a ledger system, right? And then there's a block,
correct.
And then the block contains the data, right? And then there's a fingerprint, which is basically the encapsulation of the data called a hash. And then the other side of the block is basically the previous hash, the previous data, and then they're all connected with a chain. So then you end up with this blockchain, which is like basically a very secure, complex, data-driven chain of blocks. Am I close?
Correct. That was very, very good. There's a couple things
What did I miss?
out there for the general person to think about what Bitcoin really is or blockchain. So first of all, Bitcoin is the first blockchain. So that's best, that's the easiest way to think about that. Blockchain technologies, if you think about it, is actually the most inefficient database in the world.
Inefficient.
It takes an exorbitant amount of power and energy to kind of manage this data. But it's also the most secure data structure that we ever created. And Bitcoin alone is actually the largest distributed computer system in the world. It's actually artificial intelligence borderline.
Okay.
So it's really, it's a network. It's not a thing. That's what most people kind of like don't really get what that is.
A peer-to-peer network?
It's like, think of it, these things are like AT&T and Verizon.
Okay.
But it's peer-to-peer.
Right, okay.
It's not centralized.
It's not centralized, right? I got you. So it has no like governance. It's peer-to-peer.
It's peer-to-peer, but the governance is in the source code.
Right. So it basically it's self-governed is what you're saying.
It's self-governed, yes, absolutely. So it's also borderline self-aware too. So the blockchain technologies put so many logistical bottlenecks. So as me as somebody who's an ethical hacker, I have to yield at Bitcoin and blockchain technologies. I cannot hack them. Neither can anybody else.
Okay.
They're set up in such a manner. There's logistical bottlenecks to multiple of those. So basically, it's like an onion. There's multiple layers. You might get one layer, but you have multiple moving targets as layers. Keep that in mind. Like you mentioned that these blocks happen in Bitcoin. Those blocks are 10 minutes long.
Okay.
And actually, the header and footer of that block is actually CRC check. The CRC check is a hashing algorithm used a hash to say, hey, here's a pile of files. What is my hash of that files that I have a pile with? And that's what they're doing with the data. And they're crunching that data in these blocks every 10 minutes. The thing is, if you go ahead and change the data in that block, you automatically delink from the chain. It's like a passive system that's in there. So the NSA or one of these large hacking groups that are state sponsored might get lucky enough to hack one of those. What will happen is immediately they're delinked from the chain. Immediately they make a shit ton of noise. Everybody knows that then. Next thing you know, the Bitcoin network blocks them because they say you're no longer allowed to connect to it. So it has like these multiple layers and a kind of like a locking system that is a one-way street. and you can't manipulate it or change it. And these are also decentralized systems, meaning like all the power in the internet in the world will have to go out for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to go away.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
It's really anti-fragile,
Right.
and it can't be stopped. I've been in this for 7 years, and I got to say, I thought years ago is when they could have maybe stopped it, but it's gotten to the point now where these things are ginormous
So,
and they're decentralized.
okay, that makes sense. So, what is MacGyverTech, or that would be MacGyver Media at this point? Like, what
Yeah,
do
so
you do?
we're still under the flying the flag of MacGyverTech, still doing
Okay.
both, but within the next few months, that separation is going to be more
Right.
distinct.
So,
Um,
how does your company help people in the blockchain space then?
Sure. So we're developers, we're builders. So we build
Okay.
blockchain projects. We build right on the
Gotcha.
blockchain.
Okay,
We will
gotcha.
build the software needed or the Solidity contracts if you're on Ethereum to facilitate that stuff. And then the software from the blockchain from what the end user is going to use.
Fantastic.
The website, the
Yeah.
application, all the buttons and fields. We're the guys that build what you see when you interact with any of the NFT projects. Also, we
They're
build
popping
the
up all over the
NFTs
place, by the way.
themselves.
Yeah.
Hmm?
They're popping up all over the place. Like the Phillies have an NFT right now. Like everybody has an NFT.
Yeah, the reason being is so NFT, the reason it's so popular is it's because it's an authentication process and the system. So basically it can remove third parties as validators and authenticators. And also it can be used to, basically store value. Some of these NFTs are selling more than Mona Lisas. They're selling for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
More money than
Yeah.
like you would ever imagine. And the reason, and they're just buying a little JPEG and stuff.
Right.
Here's the thing: is that value of those things might go away at some point,
Yeah.
because of the novelty effect.
Uh-huh.
But that technology is
Yeah.
what's important,
Right.
because basically in the future, your license, your house deed, everything that you think is important that you want to have value to it, most likely will be an NFT.
Wow.
Because that will be used as authentication that nobody has to store it in their own database. And let's say that database gets hacked,
Right.
then it goes like that's what people don't get. This is the next evolution of the internet, where it's a secure network of value where all the hacking goes away. A lot of the problems we have now in traditional software worlds will get faster, cheaper, and more efficient, and also safer.
Right.
So
How
there are
many
the
how many
things I
years
think-
away? How many years away do you think we are?
Few,
Yeah. Not that
3 to
like
5.
Yeah. Did COVID speed that up?
Oh yeah, by a factor of 2 at least.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, COVID was the best thing that ever happened in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for that. I didn't want to get super technical.
Sorry, I think I probably gave you too much
No,
information.
that's okay. That's okay. I think it's important for people to really like one of the reasons why we have this show is to basically talk and talk about technology, and especially if that's something that you're obviously a visionary. So you're seeing the future and you're taking your company in that space. People have questions, and then we want to be able to answer those questions. Especially for someone like me that like kind of has an idea but doesn't really know. So I would think there's probably a lot of people that are similar to that. So I thank you for that explanation. I've got two more topics I want to talk to you about because we're almost running out of time. But let's just talk about marketing for a minute. We kind of talked about like the big brand ERPs. And then kind of where you fit in. But like, how do you think, is there anything that you feel like that you do, your company does specifically that's sort of out of the box, that just really is a differentiator in the marketplace?
We're problem solvers.
Problem solvers. Yeah, but everybody
We
says that.
and like to do the
solver.
problems that others have failed at
Yeah.
or can't solve it. We usually like to take it head on.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
So basically, you probably start. We start a lot of our processes with what's called a gap assessment, which is like a super deep dive discovery process. So
So you have to hit the nail on the head. We do a discovery phase for every single thing we do.
Okay.
We do a discovery, and what we do is we try to figure out what this is, and we put a certain amount of time to that. And then once we understand what that is, we give a hard quote because we know what we're dealing with here. But otherwise, there's so many different ways software can go.
Definitely.
You gotta look under the hood and see what's going on.
Gotcha. And then any recent marketing successes you'd like to share?
Well, I guess, getting back, I think I was telling you earlier, I used to be terrified of public speaking. I
Hmm.
actually, would be the kind of guys like, hi, my name is
Hmm.
Stephen McKeon. I have a little cue card and I'm like, I really, really practice it, make sure I didn't forget anything. And
Yeah,
I've come a long way since that. I've done a ton of public speaking. I
that's
joined a
huge.
lot of networking groups and I've really turned a weakness into a strength. So now you fast forward to where we are today, like on Twitter alone, I have a 250,000 followers.
Quarter
I'm all
million?
over the place. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
I have two
gosh.
accounts with over, 100 and plus thousand followers each on them, and I
Wow,
generally share my nerdiness
that's
and a
good,
lot of
man.
cryptocurrency and
There's a
blockchain
there's a
stuff.
lot of people there's a lot of people out there that sharing that. So yeah, at least
Yeah,
a hundred
I don't know.
thousand.
I just share who I am. I mean, if you like me or you like me or you hate me.
Love it. I am what I am, baby. All right.
Absolutely.
So uh, last thing here is culture. So you kind of alluded to, you said the word COVID. I think I said, or you said, one of us said it, but I mean, that's affected companies from a cultural perspective. I'm in my office right now in Conshohocken, and right now there is 0 people in the office, so I might as well be working from home. But
Well, that's
how
where I'm
have
at right today.
how have you been able to basically, keep, maintain, thrive the culture, during the last 2 years of whatever that was?
Yeah, no, it's really so funny to bring that up. Actually, right before COVID hit, we did have a commercial real estate spot here, not too far from where I'm at here, and we wound up getting rid of it. And we
Uh
made the
huh.
conscious effort to make us a 100% remote company,
Uh huh.
and we did a lot of things to make sure the communication gaps aren't as big as they could be when you have a remote force. First of all, we use Slack, and we're always in that 24/7, which is a
Mm-hmm.
great tool to keep the company and organized. We also have many meetings a week. So what we do is we have a lot of face-to-face, like here, with small team members that are kind of a niche for whatever project they're on, and that can happen at the beginning and the end of the week. So a lot of my day will be meeting with those team members and stuff. So it's a little extra added communication that's added to the week, but that keeps us face-to-face. And we're always very, if we need to jump on a Zoom or a meeting,
Uh
we
huh.
do that very quickly and easily. We just try to keep the communication channels open
Yep.
as much as possible.
Are your majority of your employees, are they local or are they across the country?
So they're all throughout the U.S.
Okay.
We have about 20 people here, so you can
Okay.
imagine it starts to get to be a little bit of a
Yeah.
challenge. So
Yeah.
we have almost like some of the teams that I mentioned too, like might be a little bit more geocentric. With being a company that works on the East Coast, in the Midwest, and also on the West Coast, it allows me to extend my day a little bit.
Yep.
But there might be people that are on the West Coast that might not start for a few hours, where the guys on the East Coast are already kind of going in. But then at the end of the day, they can extend my day out till 7, 8 o'clock on
Right.
Eastern time. So we can almost go almost a 12-hour day from
Yeah.
our work cycle,
Yeah. Not that
which
we
that
ever
is
could.
helpful. We're all remote
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
All of our stuff is software driven. We have
Right.
ticketing systems that are all remote.
Yep.
It really
Yeah.
plays in that.
We don't
A lot.
necessarily recommend a 12-hour workday, but
No,
if
nobody
if
works 12 hours,
if
but
you
the
have
company
to.
itself. I might give
Yeah.
them a gold star if they wanted to do that, but I know I'd
No.
probably burn them out.
No. Yeah. We
I was
we
only kidding.
Yeah, I know. We don't want to promote burnout. Yeah, that's
Definitely
fantastic.
not.
I think that's for us is, we're kind of in the same boat where we were primarily remote before COVID, and then there were 6 months where the CEO was the only person in the office. I think I came in 1 day a week, and then
Wow.
I think the one thing that's been really cool about like remote work, and you probably know this, is that it's allowed you to hire outside of the geographic area. So like it's really increased our talent pool, because we're not confined to, so it's actually really a cool experience to be able to do
Right.
that. And from a sales perspective, I've been in sales my whole life, and like I would go out and I would talk to a client, and then I would meet these clients, and I'd pretty much drive in circles, like a 90-mile radius, and then all of a sudden, like you couldn't present to a client
Can't do
face to
that
face,
anymore. Right.
right? And then all of a sudden, now you actually could sell somebody in California or Michigan or North Carolina, and so it kind of blew my mind that anybody would buy from me through Zoom, just because I thought like my presence and then being the person and being actually physically looking at me and something. But I don't know, it's changing us dramatically. But yeah,
Yeah, I
I think it's
agree. I mean, I do business with people I never met, but I've
yeah,
done 100 Zooms with them.
right. Isn't that crazy? Like I
But you feel like you
literally,
know them, but then you meet
yeah,
them in person. You ever have the thing where you meet in person? Man, you look taller than.
yeah,
I get, I get
Exactly.
these weird kind of things all the time about because this chair is deceiving. I'm actually 6'1", so I'm kind of tall.
Yeah.
This chair makes it look like I'm a little shorter.
Yeah.
So people are like, man, you look taller in person.
Yeah. It looks like you're a gamer too. You're like,
Oh, I am. Oh, I am
yeah,
a gamer.
yeah.
I mean,
I
that's
can
the
see
thing
that.
is like
Yeah.
I'm a total
You're,
like, I'm a nerd that way.
yeah.
I've
You're.
been playing since Commodore 64 days.
Oh yeah, baby. I love
Really
it. Yeah.
old.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I'll never forget my first Atari.
Oh yeah, for
Fantastic.
sure. That was pretty
Asteroids.
cool. I broke that
Asteroids.
joystick, I think, in the first day though.
Easily. Yeah. You know what my game was? I was a Pitfall guy.
Do you know what the funny thing is? That was my first game I got on Commodore 64.
Dude.
That was a killer game.
I gotta find a picture, but it was like I'm gonna say 1983, and I like set a record. And like Pitfall had this thing: if you take a picture of yourself in front of the screen with a certain amount of points, they sent you a T-shirt.
Oh,
Like
shit.
literally, I found like I hit 100,000 points, whatever it was, and then my mom took a picture of me. We mailed it to Pitfall, and they sent me like a Pitfall T-shirt. So that's my
pretty
claim.
cool, man.
That's my claim to fame.
Yeah, I wish I would have known about that because you know what I would do yeah, as an ethical hacker, I was starting to hack the game.
Oh,
I could have easily hacked the score. Back then, they ain't gonna check you.
certainly not. I was also in the 4th grade, but whatever.
Yeah, well, I was right about there with you, though.
That's fantastic. All right, so we're just going to close this up. Last thing, you've already kind of talked about the future for MacGyverTech, and then MacGyver Media and the conversions or whatever. But let's just talk about you. Like, what's next for you personally and professionally?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to doing more public speaking and getting
Yeah.
around and traveling. I just I like educating people. I love what this blockchain space is. I found a niche and a really good voice in that area. We like building stuff, so really combining those together, where we get to build cool stuff, I get to talk about it and help others. To me, that's like the perfect recipe. And then when I get some free time, maybe go on a boat with my kid and enjoy
Yes.
some time that's nothing to do with technology at all.
Love it, man. Cool. All right, well, listen, thank you very much for your time. I do respect your time, and I appreciate the time that you've given me. We are local, and we're going to meet for lunch really soon.
Absolutely, we're going to do lunch for sure.
I'm like a half hour from Glen Olden, so and plus I live on the Jersey side, so it's on my way home. So that would be absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much. I'm so glad we had a chance to connect, and I do have a couple books that I'm going to share with you offline.
Absolutely.
That'll help with your, possibly your parenting and your business. So
Anything, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
we'll go through that, and we'll try to connect in the next month. All right. Well, thank you very much. To our audience right there, thank you for hanging in there. I really hope that you can walk away from this, and hope you've learned a few things. At the very least, that you can define blockchain. If you can't, hit us up, and we'll see if we can do a better job of answering that for you. So if you would like, and you're out there, please subscribe, comment, hit that bell, and we look forward to seeing you again. We're putting out content like this quite frequently, so check back with us, and we look forward to bringing you more guests like Mac on Thought Leader Magazine. So thank you very much for your time, and Mac, have a great day. I look forward to catching up with you
You as
soon.
well. Thank you very much.
All right, take care.